Welcome into another edition of Chalk Talk. Nick Camino joined by Ben Axelrod. And Ben, here we are moving along here. And it is week 7 of the NFL, week 8 of the college football season. We're getting closer to those college football rankings coming out. I think we're starting to get some answers when it comes to the NFL, maybe early questions that we had. And it's moving along here pretty quickly now.
I don't know. I think I have more questions about the NFL now than I did a week ago. Teams we thought were good, the Rams, the Cowboys, teams we thought were contenders, they're on losing streaks.
Yeah.
The Browns are obviously the Browns, and we've talked plenty about them. But, I have a lot of questions about the NFL.
For you.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs now have dropped 2 straight.
True.
This is we talked last week, it felt like the Patriots and Chiefs and everybody else. Now it just feels like the Patriots and everybody else.
I know there's a couple of teams that are still undefeated. You've got the Patriots, you've got the Niners. But it's funny, the old commissioner of the NFL, Pete Rozelle, years ago, he said in a perfect world, his NFL would be, all teams would be 8-8 because every team would, every city would have interest. Yep. Everybody would be right on the same playing level. It's kind of funny that here we are in 2019 and you're looking at the NFL. There's a lot of 2-4. There's a lot of 3-3. You know, it seems like there are a lot of middle of the road teams right now. I think he'd be happy, God rest his soul, if he was still around.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Browns and them being 2-4, and there are a lot of concerns about the Browns and how they've been playing and the way they've been losing these games. But as far as their record is concerned, they're right there in the mix with all the other teams. They're only 2 games back of the Ravens for the division lead. They're at 2-4. They're not out of this thing yet. Now there's a lot of concerns about obviously dropping to 2-5 after playing New England after the bye week, and some of those games. Buffalo and Denver look a little tougher than they looked at the start of the season. But, this is an NFL that, again, it's the Patriots and 49ers who are undefeated. Then there's the Bengals and the Dolphins who are winless. And then a whole bunch of teams just in between 6 weeks through this thing.
I remember last week we were talking about maybe what the first college football playoff would look like. And I had said these things will work themselves out. We see Georgia go down. They were a 21.5-point favorite. We always look at the spreads because we're looking at this through entertainment purposes only through the lens of sports gambling. They were a 21.5-point favorite against South Carolina at home. They lose that game. That's really going to hurt their playoff chances, I would think, a loss like that. Yeah,
especially in the SEC where you also have Alabama and LSU right now who have separated themselves, I think, into that upper tier of contender along with Ohio State and Oklahoma right now. So, we have a little bit more clarity, still a few weeks away from those first college football rankings. But like you said, these things sort themselves out. And, we'll learn a lot about Ohio State in these next couple of weeks. We'll learn a lot about Alabama and LSU. So, this, right here, right around Halloween and into Thanksgiving, this is really the heart of the college football season.
All right, just to quickly recap, again, we're going to give picks. I'll give 3 college picks. Ben will give 3 college picks against the spread. He'll give 3 NFL picks. I'll give 3 NFL picks against the spread. All of it for entertainment purposes only. Week 8 of college football, week 7 of the NFL. But just to look back quickly at last week, if we're going to do a quick review, you go 500, 3-3. I end up going 2-4, and I had some close ones in there. I think about that Iowa game, some of those games that I had picked.
Yeah, you lost that Penn State-Iowa game by half a point. Looking at your NFL picks right here, Browns-Seahawks was
a close one.
Close one.
If Freddie Kitchens wasn't trying to score 100 points in a minute, I may have had a chance there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's so many of these games. The lines are what they are because it's supposed to be close like that.
Bingo. So. And then to review yours though, I mean you go 3-3.
I go 2-1 in college.
Yeah.
Lost that Virginia-Miami game that you and I were texting all week about.
We knew that was wrong.
Yeah, that should have been our red flag game of the season. That what are we missing with this line? What we're missing is we're on the wrong side of it. So I lost to Miami-Virginia, but we both won the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas with a late cover there by our Longhorns. And then I also won LSU in Florida. Went 1-2 in the NFL though. Won Saints-Jaguars, lost Ravens-Bengals, and Packers-Lions. So I think that's my second straight losing week in the NFL and winning week in college. But I'm 19-15-2 on the season, still above water in both college and NFL. 9-7-2 in college, 10-8 in the NFL. But on a razor thin margin for error right around now.
Never did I think that 2 Ohio guys would be saying our Longhorns, but that's what Chalk Talk will do. All right, let's take a look at our picks against the spread for this upcoming week. We ready for this, Ben? I'll give my 3 college picks against the number. Again, all of it for entertainment purposes only. First game that I'll look at is going to be a Big 12 showdown. I have not done very well picking Big 12 games, but we're going to go back to it. The Texas Tech Red Raiders getting 7 points at home against Iowa State. The Cyclones this year have been, in my opinion, a little bit disappointing. I thought they would be a team that by this point in the year, they would be unbeaten or maybe just have one loss. They've kind of been a little bit up and down, a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Texas Tech is at home. The Red Raiders are 7-2 versus the Cyclones as the home team in this showdown. Their last 9, they've won 7. Jet Duffy is their quarterback now. I think he's done a tremendous job with them. They almost beat 22nd ranked Baylor last week. A game went to overtime. They lost. I just think Texas Tech has been playing better and better each week, and I think that's what happens when you have a new coach. Matt Wells is their coach. He took over for Cliff Kingsbury. He went to the NFL, and I think now we're seeing that improvement each week like we saw what he used to do at Utah State. So I just think Texas Tech at home in this spot, getting 7 points, even if they weren't to win, I think they could keep it close and have an opportunity to cover this 7-point spread.
Yeah, my fear here would just be Matt Campbell, just because I believe in these coaches so much. But, I like Matt Campbell in underdog spots better than I like him in, a 7 point spread. So, I definitely see your rationale. I don't like to go against Matt Campbell, so I'll stay away from this one.
Last week, I think they were a 10-point favorite on the road at West Virginia, and they handled business. I mean, the Cyclones are good. They're still a good football team. I just think this will be a close game. That was my thoughts on this. Second game will go out to the Pac-12, little Pac-12 after dark, but this will be at 3:30 in the afternoon. Washington at home getting 3 points against Oregon. These are the top 2 teams in the Pac-12 North, and I would imagine the winner of this game will put themselves in the driver's seat to probably go play Utah in the Pac-12 championship. I think if there's a conference that's going to be left out of the college football playoff. I know I had talked to you about Utah earlier in the year, but they lost to USC. So I think the Pac-12 could get left out again. We'll see here. But I think this winner will probably play Utah for that conference championship. The Huskies are 12-2 their last 14 Pac-12 home games. And I like them in this spot. I think they've won 2 of the last 3 against the Ducks. Oregon has Herbert. They've done a nice job. But a couple of weeks ago, I saw a sloppy game against Cal that they were a 21-point favorite in. They barely won the game. I just think at times they've been a little bit sloppier than Mario Cristobal, their coach, would like. So I'm going to take Washington. I like the head coach. You talk about head coaches. Yeah. To me, I think Chris Peterson's one of the best coaches in the country. They're getting 3 points at home. I think they can win the game. Yeah,
you read my mind with the Chris Peterson comment. I mean, that's my hesitation would be.
You've always mentioned you buy into coaches.
I buy into coaches. Yeah. That's why I ride Tom Herman as an underdog. That's why, I always backed Urban Meyer at Ohio State. But yeah, I mean, Chris Peterson, my hesitation here would be Justin Herbert, a quarterback who's in the conversation for being the number 1 pick. There's always that fear that he's going to have that game where he just shows everybody why he's in that conversation, why he's been as highly touted as he's been now for a couple of years. But I mean, this is a game where to me it's almost like a coin flip type game, so I'd rather have the 3 points.
If this game is at Outson Stadium where Oregon plays in Eugene, I'm not touching it, but it's in in Washington. I
Chris
just feel
Peterson
like
at home
getting 3. Last game, might get some laughs at this one just because they've been an up and down roller coaster. But I'm going to go with Michigan +9 against Penn State. There's a couple of Las Vegas sports books that do game of the year look-ahead lines way before the summer. I think like in May they do these. And in May, this spread was Michigan -4.5. It's now Michigan +9.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is based on things that have happened throughout the season. Penn State's look really good. Michigan's been a little bit shaky. Things even got close against Illinois. But I just think Michigan's going to have the ability to at least keep this game close, if not win the game. I do think they're going to have a chance to keep it close. So Michigan getting the 9 points. That's where I'm at on this one.
Yeah, this is my stay away of the week because I don't, a week ago, I would have been all over Penn State in the spot. Penn State has that blowout gene. I think that, Michigan, they've looked so sloppy, but Michigan's bounced back a little bit, or at least shown some signs of life since that close call against Army and since that loss to Wisconsin. Penn State's quarterback, Sean Clifford, he's been up and down all season. I think between him and Shea Patterson, this could be a game where there's a lot of turnovers, a lot of incomplete passes. So that a big 9-point line in this spot would scare me. We saw Iowa play Penn State pretty close last week. So, this is one where this is kind of where I'm going to reassess what I think about Michigan for the rest of the season. And I don't want to back them. I don't want to bet against them. I just want to see where they're at heading into this second half of their Big Ten schedule.
I don't think it's that much of a difference of where I thought the spread would be, but I thought this would be 6.5 or 7. It's at 9. I just think there's a little bit of value there with the Wolverines. But
Jim Harbaugh, though, against a ranked team, that's scary.
True. That's true. I know you and I are going to have some disagreements coming up in the NFL, but it sounds like in college, at least, I was able to survive Ben's thoughts on some of these. So just to recap my 3 college picks, we'll go Texas Tech getting 7 in Lubbock, Texas against Iowa State, Washington getting 3 at home against Oregon, and the Michigan Wolverines getting 9 points against Penn State. So those are my 3 college picks, Ben.
Okay.
Let's hit your 3 college picks.
We're going to start on Friday night. Rare Big Ten Friday night matchup for the Buckeyes. Northwestern plus 28.5 hosting the Buckeyes. I'm going to take Northwestern plus the 28.5.
Ben's going back and forth on Ohio State this year. It's been interesting.
I've jumped off the wave a couple of times. I should probably stick with it. But both teams coming off a bye, so I think it negates that advantage for either team. Northwestern has played both Nebraska and Wisconsin close this season. That's about as comparable to Ohio State as you might be able to get at this point. Northwestern's defense has sneakily been pretty good. Haven't allowed more than 31 points in a single game. Ranked 30th in scoring defense, giving up just a little under 20 points per game. And you're not going to hold Ohio State to 20 points a game, but I think when the line's 28.5, I think that's important. I think it's important that means if you can hold Ohio State under 40, you just have to score a couple of times, and you've got that point spread covered. So I think the Buckeyes win this game. I think they probably win it big, but I think this line's probably 4 or 5 points a little too big.
We've always talked about how we like home underdogs, and I think this is the perfect example of some of these sports books looking at this game and saying, how can we get people to take Northwestern, because we can't make the line high enough. And I think in this instance, you're right. I think they've made it just a little bit too high. It's a blackout Friday night. It's going to be a crazy environment. Even in Evanston, they'll get up for this game. They've had this circled. I think this is the type of game Fitzgerald somehow, some way keeps it close with. I'm with you.
Yeah, I've covered Ohio State at Northwestern in a nighttime game, 2013, I believe. Kenny Guyton almost came in for Braxton Miller. Braxton Miller had a couple of fumbles. Big backdoor cover with Joey Bosa in a sack. But that was a night game in Evanston, and that place was rocking. And it wasn't all Ohio State alums. It was a lot of purple and black, and it can get rainy there, obviously, in that Chicago area.
And by the way, I think here's a little prediction in that game. There were years ago, Notre Dame had a slow, big, tough team, physical team. They played a tough, speedy USC team with Reggie Bush. They let the grass grow about this high in that game. They got the natural grass there. I think we're going to have some high, like knee-high grass in Evanston on Friday to try and slow the Buckeyes down.
Yeah, and we talk about coaches so much on the show. Pat Fitzgerald, veteran coach, a guy who's been through this before.
He's been there a while now.
Yeah, been there for a long time. Probably the most tenured coach, him and Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz, I guess, probably has a leg up, but in the Big Ten. But yeah, I just think coming off a bye, he's going to have some things up his sleeve for the Buckeyes defensively that might be able to at least slow them down to the tune of 28.5 points.
All right, so Ben likes Northwestern getting 28.5, and he has agreement from me on that one. Your other 2 college picks.
Another big underdog here against another top team. I like Louisville plus 24 versus Clemson.
Wow.
We've seen Clemson be sluggish at times this season against some of the better teams on their schedule, Texas A&M, UNC, the close call a couple of weeks ago. Louisville has scored at least 38 points in 4 of their 6 games, so they can score. And if you can, get a couple of scores on Clemson, that's a big advantage for that 24 point spread. So this is again just a game where I think the line's too big for what I'm expecting. It's a noon kickoff, I believe, on Saturday, so might be a little sluggish for the Clemson Tigers here.
Scott Satterfield, who was at Appalachian State, I think he's done a nice job at Louisville in his first year. I think they just beat Wake Forest.
Yeah,
that was
big. They score a lot of points.
Yeah, they score some points. They played Notre Dame tough at the beginning of the year. I like this spot for them. That's a lot of points at home.
It's a lot of points, and that's I think Clemson wins. I think they win it convincingly, but 24 points, that's a lot to play with.
All right, last college game for Ben Axelrod.
Going back to our Longhorns, our Texas Longhorns, 21.5 point favorites versus Kansas. Bounce back spot after losing last week's game against Oklahoma. Said it before, say it again. I believe in Tom Herman. again, this is a wide talent gap.
Don't believe in Les Miles yet. Right?
Not at Kansas. Not at Kansas.
Yeah, maybe at Michigan.
This is a wide talent gap, and I know a couple of weeks ago you had Kansas against Oklahoma, but that was a 35-point spread.
True, at home.
This is a 21.5-point spread. I think,
and they're on the road.
Yeah, I think the difference between those two lines is massive. Texas 4-2 against the spread this season. Kansas 2-4. Night game at home for the Longhorns, so they'll be up for it. And Kansas has given up 45 points and 51 points in each of their last two games, so they'll give up that big number. And if Texas only has to cover by 21.5, I think they can do it.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of those. So just recap your three college picks.
I like Northwestern plus 28.5 against Ohio State. I like Louisville plus 24 hosting Clemson, and I like Texas minus 21.5 versus Kansas.
All right, let's shoot to week 7 of the NFL. Again, all these picks for entertainment purposes only. Chalk Talk, looking at football through the lens that is sports betting. Ben has his 3 NFL picks, then I'll give my 3 NFL picks. So your 3 picks for week 7 of the NFL.
Well, I think we're going to do these together, I think, because we go head-to-head on 2 of them. And we haven't gone head-to-head more than once, so I think this will be fun. So I'll give my one that we're not going
Based on record, side with Ben then. No, we'll see what happens
much.
there. We'll see what happens.
I'll give my one that we're not doing head-to-head. Yeah, so my one that's different is I like the Dolphins plus 17 at the Bills. I think this is just too many points to be giving this Bills team.
Dolphins were good to me last week.
Yeah, and this is too many points for the Bills. The Bills are only averaging 18 points a game. And so for them to be a 17-point favorite, you know,
they're going to have to score. I mean, the Dolphins have played people tough.
They're going to have to score a lot, and that's something they haven't done. Josh Allen, obviously, a concern with turnovers. Miami's played hard. I mean, players don't tank, organizations do, but those players from Miami have been playing hard. The fact that they showed a willingness to go from Josh Rosen to Ryan Fitzpatrick last week shows me that they're willing to change it up during the game if they need to. And now this is I'm gonna contradict myself later, but Buffalo is 4-1 against the spread. Miami is 1-4.
Okay.
I think those two spreads are so extreme, those two records against the spread, that we're almost due for some regression for both.
Okay.
And so I could see this being a spot where Miami picks up at least a win against the spread and Buffalo drops one. So I just when I saw this line, I know that's been the trend is to give Miami these big lines. I know Buffalo's been playing better than expected, but the Bills just aren't a team I'm ready to make a 17-point favorite against anybody.
I'm with you on that.
Including the Dolphins.
Nice start for them. You're right, but this is the NFL. This is not college football. I'm with you on that. The Bills should not be giving anybody this many points.
Yeah, and they're coming off their bye, and I think coming off their bye, Buffalo, teams can get sluggish too. It's not always the advantage it's cracked up to be.
I would agree with that. Do you want me to give my one NFL game, and then we'll bust out the chalkboard later? Okay, so my one game. This is where Ben and I do not have disagreement. Well, we might. I don't know. He didn't pick it. Cowboys -3 at home against the Eagles, and here's my thought process on this. I think at times we have the tendency to overreact to things. And the Dallas Cowboys were a 7-point favorite on the road against the Jets last week, and they lost. They had to go for 2 to try and tie the game at the end. They didn't get it, and the Jets win that game. Welcome back, Sam Darnold. But I still think going home on Sunday Night Football, you've got PETERSEN saying, guaranteeing a win on a radio station, which I didn't blame him on. He's confident in his team. What's he supposed to say in that instance? But I just think that's going to fire up the Cowboys. That's kind of what this team needs right now. And they've shown the ability to score. They've shown the ability to make adjustments. I just think at home in this spot, being a 3-point favorite, I mean, that tells us that Vegas is viewing them as even teams. I think the Cowboys right now are a slightly better team than the Eagles. I know the Eagles have a nice road win earlier in the year against Green Bay, but they also have home losses this year and sometimes where they've had some hiccups. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys at home -3.
I thought about this game because I thought the Eagles were one of the better teams in the NFL entering the season, but they just haven't played like it. They just consistently, we haven't seen that from them.
They've got talent. They
have one of the best 1 through 53 rosters in the NFL. So if I had to pick it, I'd probably side with the Eagles and the points, but this for me is just kind of like I said with Michigan.
So stay away.
Yeah, I just want to, it's not any other position based on these two teams' records. This would be like a must-win game, but based on the state of the NFC East, this is a game that either of them could lose and still be in it. So
all right.
I just want to reassess where both of these teams are.
No, I like that. Okay, so this is where we've got disagreement.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how we should we go about, like, I'll give my feeling on one game and then we kind of how do you want to Because the first game, and I know that people will laugh at this, I was going to go with the Falcons getting 3 points against the Rams.
And I've got the Rams -3.
You like the Rams -3. Here's my thought process on this. The Falcons are absolutely terrible. They're 1-5 on the season. They just lost at Arizona. But here's my thought process on this. The Rams, for the first time, are really having to go through some adversity with their head coach in Sean McVay. He's never lost 3 games in a row as their head coach.
Yep.
They've lost 3 straight. They have to go across the country for a 1 o'clock game. Goff has looked terrible. And I just feel like the Falcons at home, the one time that I remember them playing well was on a Sunday night game against the Eagles that we had just talked about. And they ended up winning that game in a game I think they were a 1-point underdog, 1.5-point underdog. I think we hit that game. One of us, I hit that game on an episode of Chalk Talk. So that's where it stuck out to me. Yes, on paper, I think the Rams are a better team. I think that they should win the game. But something just feels weird about this 3-game losing streak. Something feels weird about them paying a lot of I know in LA, I was hearing some of the things that were being said. They hadn't paid some of the key guys that were on their offensive line, and they're trying to pay guys that are hurt now. And so I just thought that the Falcons, as bad as they've looked, that was what went into this. But I certainly couldn't fault you for liking the Rams.
Well, I mean, my fear with this game, from my side, I took the Rams -3 at the Falcons. I mean, Jared Goff has not been good this season, and he has been, on the road, traveling west to east and all of that. And this could be a tough spot for him. There's still talent on this Falcons defense. But the Falcons, to me, have just quit. I mean, that's what I saw against Arizona last week. That's what I've been. They've been the hardest team for me to pick games for because I know the talent on that roster, and they keep winding up in these games where they're a 4-point favorite or a 4-point dog, and you don't even know what to do with the line. And so last week I just picked the Cardinals in my online picks because I think the Cardinals had offensive talent, and
they're figuring it out. I feel like a little bit.
And that's the one thing is, Sean McVay, for all his faults, or his team's faults, I should say, this season, we know he can put together a good offensive game plan. In Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks and those guys, Robert Woods. I just think this is a spot where. They can go in and eat a little bit against a team that feels like it's quit.
I was going to say, the thing that scares me now about my pick about the Falcons is because I believe all the things I said, but when you mentioned the word quit, if they have quit on Dan Quinn and they have quit on the coaching staff and things like that, then the Falcons are in trouble. Yeah. And then they may not win this game. I was still feeling like they played a close game out in Arizona. I don't think they've quit, but if they have quit, go with Ben. If you don't think they've quit, maybe go with me.
Yeah.
All right. The third game you could start with Ravens and Seahawks.
Yeah, I've got the Seahawks -3.5 versus the Ravens.
I had the Ravens getting 3.5.
Yep. And my rationale here, Ravens haven't covered since week 1 versus Miami.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I think these lines they're getting have been inflated because of that week 1 win, because it was so, that was one of the big stories in the NFL that week was how good Lamar Jackson looked, and it was against the Dolphins. It wasn't against a good team or a team that's even trying to win. Seattle, I think, one of the most complete teams in the NFL, complete roster. Pete Carroll versus second-year quarterback. We saw that last week against Baker Mayfield, and I think Lamar Jackson has some limitations that Pete Carroll can exploit. And then, the Seahawks passing game against a shaky Ravens defense. Russell Wilson playing at an MVP level. Tyler Lockett, Jaron Brown, those guys, we saw what they were able to do to the Browns. And this is a spot where I just think the Seahawks roster is more experienced and in a better position at home than the Ravens are.
My thought on this game was it should be a 7 or 8 point spread.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going the other way for some stupid reason.
It does stand out as one of those weird lines.
Why is this 3.5?
Yeah.
I certainly think that the Seahawks could win this game by a field goal, and then maybe we cover with the hook.
I think what we can agree on is this game will be decided by either 3 or 4 points.
I would agree with that.
One of us is going to lose it by a half a point.
Exactly. That's been what Chalk Talk's been all about this year. Teams that have played the Browns have gone on to struggle the following week. I think the Browns defense, even though they've been missing some guys, they're pretty physical. I think teams could get beat up. I think that the Ravens had a pretty easy win. I know the score didn't say it, and they didn't cover against the Bengals, but they had a relatively easy win at home against the Bengals. Now they're going on the road in a tough environment. The Seahawks just played a really tough game against the Browns. So that was my thought on that I would take the the Ravens getting the 3.5 in this spot. So,
Yeah.
should we you want to give your 3 NFL picks then for the chalkboard here?
Yeah, I've got the Dolphins plus 17 at the Bills. I've got the Rams -3 at the Falcons, and I've got the Seahawks -3.5 versus the Ravens.
All right, I've got the Cowboys. That's on Sunday Night Football. I've got the Ravens getting 3.5 and the Falcons getting 3. So we haven't had too many disagreements throughout the year.
This will be fun.
This will
be a fun
one.
Sunday.
Yeah, some bragging rights. All right, for Ben Axelrod, I'm Nick Camino. That's it for this edition of Chalk Talk. Thanks for being with us.